Okay, there's a lot to get through in this video. This is a pretest P1, P4, so please make sure that you stop this and pause it if you need to as you continue going along. The interval 2, 5, both 2 and 5 have brackets on them, so we're talking about the inequality with 2 less than x less than 5. We want the brackets to be shown, so the brackets mean that we have the less than symbol underneath there. The graph on this, I've got a 2 and a 5. And I want all the numbers in between. The 2 is included, that's a closed circle. The 5 is included, that's a closed circle. And all the numbers in between. The next one, x is greater than -3. I think the graph is easiest from that. So I've got -3. This is an open circle. And I want the numbers that are greater than -3. And then the interval is that I'm going from -3, but I'm not including it. And I'm going until I get to infinity, and you can never include infinity. The inequality for the next one goes from -5 to 3, -5 to 3. I am including 3, so there's a bracket there, and not including -5, so parenthesis there. When I look at the graph of that, I've got -5 over here and 3 over here. Open circle at -5, closed circle at 3. And I'm looking for all the numbers in between there. The next one, from 4 to infinity. Again, I think the graph, when you have infinity in here, is easiest to make. So I'm going from 4 to infinity. There's an open circle parenthesis at 4, so it ends up looking like this. My inequality is I'm looking for all the numbers that are bigger than 4. Number 2 is solving the equations. Solve the following equations. First thing here, distributive property. So we've got 3x minus 2x minus 10 equals 10. 3x minus 2x is 1x minus 10 is equal to 10. Add 10 to both sides. And I get 1x equals 20, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 1x. The next one, distributive property. I get 4x plus 12 minus 3 equals distributive property. 8 minus 6x minus 4. So on the left-hand side, I've got a 12 minus 3, so I've got 4x plus 9 equals, on the right-hand side, I've got 8 minus 4, so I've got -6 plus 4. Get all the x's on the same side, so I'm going to add 6x to both sides. And so I get 10x plus 9 is equal to 4. Nice friendly equation. Divide by 10. X is -1/2. For the next one, I've got a denominator in here, so I want to get rid of the denominator. Well, the common denominator between the 5 and the 3 is 15, so I'm going to multiply all of these things by 15. Let me erase this part. When I do that, this 5 and 15 reduce, so I get 3 times x is 3x. Nothing reduces with the 15 here. 15 times 3 is 45. This 3 and this 15 reduce, so I get 5 times x. And then 15 times 1, nothing reduces, so I get plus 15. Get the x's on the same side, subtract 3x from both sides. -45 is equal to 2x plus 15. Subtract 15 from both sides. -45 minus 15 is -60 equals 2x. Divide by 2. And x equals -30. When we're looking at D, let me erase this part. When we're looking at D, I've got two fractions equal to each other. I can either use the same method that I just used over there, or I can cross multiply. But let's cross multiply. When I do that, now I have distributive property here, distributive property here, Got x's on both sides, so let's get them on one side. A nice friendly equation, add 26 to both sides. 26 plus negative 15, or negative 15 plus 26 gives me 11. Divide by 3. And I get x is equal to 11/3. Continuing with this, now I've got a squared, so I want to get the squared by itself, so I divide by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. I'm going to take the square root. Whenever I create that square root, I get a plus and minus, and I've got the square root of 2 as my answer, so I get plus and minus square root of 2. For f, I want to get the square root by the squared by itself, so I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, so I get x minus 8 equals 25. X minus 8 is quantity squared. I want to get rid of the squared, so I'm going to take the square root. The squared and the square root cancel. I get x minus 8 equals the square root of 25. Again, I made the square root, so the square root of 25 is 5, so I get plus and minus 5. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And I actually end up with two answers. I end up with 8 plus 5, which is 13, and 8 minus 5, which is 3. And so I end up with x equals 13 and 3. On g, this is a trinomial now, so I want to look to see if I can factor it. Well, x squared is x times x. 30, I need something that multiplies to give me 30, but adds to give me negative 12. And 30 is 15 times 2, 30 times 1, 10 times 3, 6 times 5. When I look at all of those, none of them actually come out to give me something that can be factored. So factoring is my first option because it's the fastest. If it doesn't work out that you can factor it, and the next thing you want to do is look at using the quadratic formula. So I get negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I want to name what my things are, so I've got a here equal to 1, b is negative 12, and c is 30. So I want to plug those in. I've got a is equal to 1, but I've got negative b, which is negative of negative 12, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 12 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 30, all divided by 2 times a, which is 1. Now simplifying this, again, I like to do the inside the radical separate, so if you wanted to do inside the radical separate, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, all of it combined, I've got negative 12 squared is 144, and then 4 times 1 times 30 is going to give me 120. And this is all divided by 2. So I've got, whoop, too far. So when I continue this, I've got 12 plus or minus the square root of 144 minus 120 is 24, all divided by 2. That 20 square root of 24, I can break that down into the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. The square root of 4 is 2. Now I have a fraction that all of these parts can be divided by 2, so 12 divided by 2 is 6. The 2 divided by 2 is 1. We do not divide the square root of 6 because the square root of 6 is inside the radical, not outside. Back up to the last one on this side. I want this to be equal to 0, so I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And when I add 8 to both sides, I get it equal to 0, so add 8 if you want the step in there. Now, again, it's a trinomial, so the first thing I want to try to do is see if I can factor it. I get x times x, multiplies to give me 8, but adds to give me 6. Well, that one actually works. I've got a 4 and a 2, so that's good. Now I've got zero product property. Set both of these things equal to 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. Subtract 2 from both sides for this one. I get x equals -4 or x equals -2. That ends the front side of this review sheet.